I've got a low polygon model here, or lower polygon model of a character model. And to start this process, I'm going to go ahead and delete the eye meshes because I won't need those for this. You could also attach them and hide them. I just forgot they were in there before I made the video. And I'm going to collapse the stack so I don't have anything in there that I don't need. And the first thing we need to do is rotate this character so that it's laying on its back. And it's kind of weird we'd have to do that, but for some reason you need to be looking straight down on the top when you draw the garments or the clothes that we're going to make for this character. I'm going to zoom in here on the chest area, and I'm going to make a shirt or a top for this character. And what I'm going to do is just create a simple mesh object. So we'll do some sleeves. You want to give the object plenty of room on the sides. I think that'll probably work pretty well. I'm only going to do half of it. And now I'm going to get into this line that I just made. I'm going to select that spline and go down here to mirror. I'm going to click copy and then click mirror, and it's going to make a copy of that spline that I can line up on the other side. Now the next thing we need to do is drop this down, go to vertex, and we've got to fuse these vertexes where they meet, these two sections. And then we need to select these and hit weld so that when we go to spline and we select it, it's all one spline. Now, there's another weird piece to this. We need to select all the vertices, and go to break. And they should all look like these little boxes. And the only reason I can figure you have to do that is eventually we have to get a hold of these separate edges, and I guess that's the only way that the process can tell that's what we're doing. Okay, I'm going to make two of these, so I'm going to hold down Shift and make a clone. This is going to be the back of it. And then I'm going to attach these two together so that they are both the same object. All very important steps in this. If you skip any of those steps, it won't work. Okay, now I'm going to drop this down and go to the Garment Maker modifier, and that's going to create this weird looking mesh. It's not optimized by any means. It needs a lot of triangles in it so it can bend and deform to our model. I'm going to zoom out a little ways here and go to my 4 views at this point. Now I need to rotate one of these, so I'm going to drop down Garment Maker's sub-objects to Panels, and I'm going to select this one. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rotate this around 180 degrees. And we are right there. I could have typed it in this slot right here. That's rotated around, and then I'm going to move this over until it's taking up the same space as my other object. And if you're not sure what that space is, you can center it using your transforms, or usually you'll have that selection box. I've turned mine off here. But you'll have that selection box, and you can use the selection box to tell if it's centered or not. And at this point, they're laying right on top of each other. So I'm just going to lower this one. I'm going to grab both panels and bring them up to the body. And this panel here on the bottom needs to go a little bit lower. And I'm going to look over this and make sure we've got this correctly. Looks right. Okay. It looks correct. Okay, and I can hop back over to my perspective view at this point. And what we should have are both of those panels positioned around the model. Now, I'm going to grab the model. Oops, turn off panels. I'm going to grab the model and the clothes, and I'm going to rotate those back up. Now we have to do this step so that our gravity setting will be correct when we get into the cloth modifier. So now here's my model, and we're getting ready to stick those clothes right on the model. Now, at this point in the game, I usually click on these panels, go back to the panel selection screen, and I move the panels as close as I can get them without them intersecting the character mesh. And that's pretty close there, so I'll give that a try. Okay, now we're going to go to the seams sub-object. And this is the part that gets a little tricky, I think. I'm going to select these seams, and they can be kind of tricky to get the icon to show up. If you just click on them, they'll get selected. And then hit Create Seam wherever these are going to seam up. So here in the neck, I'm not going to create a seam because I don't want them connecting through the body. And when we're done here, you'll be able to get a better idea of which one of these seams are selected. So for instance, I do want these down here connected, and I want these connected. Holding down Control to select the alternate one. But these down below will not be connected because they would intersect the body. If you get a seam that looks like, I'll show you, this, where they cross over, you need to hit Reverse Seam, and that will fix it. Sometimes it happens just because Max doesn't want to behave itself. And sometimes you want them to happen. You can actually create pleats in your garments that way. Okay, we're almost all the way around here. One more. Okay, so now we've seamed this up, basically, and we've left holes where the arms and the waist and the neck are coming through. Alright, and I'm going to get off my sub-object. I'm also going to save this right now, just so it's done. We'll call this O1A. Actually, how about O1B? Okay, and now, when we're done with that, we're going to drop this down and go to Cloth. This one, Modifier. At the very top, we're almost done at this point. Under Object Properties, this looks intimidating, but you really don't have to do very much here. In my case, line 02 is the garment itself. You can see it selected. And I'm going to say that's the cloth. Under Presets, I'm going to pick some sort of cloth that sounds good, like cotton. That will set all these numbers for the time being. Then Add Objects and select your body or your collision object. And that object, when selected, is the collision object. It goes down here. Under Depth and Offset, you may want to ramp those up a little bit because I find one tends to intersect the body. And then hit OK. And now we're almost done. I'm going to rotate this around so we can see what's happening. I'm going to save this as C, just in case it crashes. Okay, and then we're going to hit Simulate Local. Now, it may droop off the body. If it does, we'll fix that. But since I haven't ever seen what this particular object's going to do, we'll give it a shot. We'll hit Simulate Local. It's going to start sucking it together. And it looks like it's going to intersect the body a little bit. Let's see if it comes back out. No, it's not going to come out enough. So I'm going to undo that. You click here to stop it, and then you can hit undo. Under Object Properties, we need to go back to our object, and under Collision, I'm going to bump these numbers up a little bit, and that should give that top a little bit more space. And we'll see if that helps. Yeah, that helps a little bit more, and there's our shirt sticking right to the body there. And I'm going to stop this when I get something that I like. Now that's pretty good. We've got some areas here where the original spline wasn't wide enough. So in other words, if this was material, it wasn't long enough to go all the way through to the other side. Now you could seam these up by hand, or you could go back to the original line and make that a wider area if you wanted to, and then come back through the process. That's the basis for this process. Now if I open up a few others here that we've got, like this one, this is a little bit more complex pattern. You can see it's like a dress. And this one tends to droop off of the model. And we can fix that. So you can see everything's set up here. Let me double check something. If I put gravity on, and by default gravity is on, and I hit simulate local, what's going to happen is it's going to droop off the body here. And you can see it starting to fall off the body. And that's not what we want. We could stop it there, and you could get kind of the effect of gravity. Now my seams here aren't very good, but you get the idea. Or what we can do, I'll undo that, is turn off the gravity button and then say simulate local. And we'll let that run all the way through. And what it's going to do is calculate this all the way through. And it's going to do some weird stuff along the way, because the original splines are actually a little too big in this case, so they're folding over each other right now, but they'll relax a bit here in a minute. There they go. You can see them starting to relax and pull apart at the seams, so that these seam areas are getting a little bit cleaner. And we're getting there. There we go. A little bit longer. Okay, that's pretty good. We'll turn that off. And mostly okay. We've got some weird stuff happening here where my seams didn't work very good. At this point, we can turn back on gravity and simulate this again for a little bit, and it will droop down just a little bit, and then we can stop the calculation and we get a better fit. One more example. This is another shirt, kind of a 1970s era shirt going here. And this one does pretty well for a complicated object like this. We'll zoom in here and we can watch this one transform. And all the settings are basically the same. If I go to object properties, you'll see under chest the depth is set pretty high, and under line here, these are the settings. These are this is the garment object. And I'll hit simulate local, and this one does a pretty good job of wrapping around the character mesh when it's all done. There we go, and you can see these little pieces, because gravity is turned on in this case, they're going to drape down. It's going to take a little while, but they'll drape down, and then we can stop this, and we've got a pretty good fit. Now, it wasn't quite long enough here. Again, I could seam these up by hand, or weld these vertices, or go back and make my original material template for this top just bigger so that it fit better. But that's a general overview of how to get the garment maker and the cloth modifier to work for your models, and you can give it a try. It doesn't make a very optimized mesh, but it is good.